Um, this was the anthrax hysteria, otherwise known as the anthrax scare. What is the anthrax scare? The anthrax scare, it started a week right after the terrorist attacks on the buildings on 9/11, and there were many different letters mailed from Trenton, New Jersey at first, but there would be more like post offices like later on, and they all contained anthrax and hints of anthrax within the letters. And there were many different post offices that had multiple different letters that were mailed, all not across the globe, across the United States, and they all contained anthrax within them, and they were all like people began to panic because anthrax is deadly. Anthrax can kill you, and I would be scared if there were random letters just mailed all across, the United States, and they all contained anthrax within them, so I could die and get sick from just opening a letter. Um, this is how the anthrax scare relates to the Crucible. It was actually a very different situation from what happened with the Crucible, but they had some similarities because they were both, worldwide, like worldwide known hysterias. Uh, One similarity between the Anthrax scare and the Crucible is that there were different people and they were put on trial, convicted, accused of a crime that they didn't commit, and they were accused without any evidence. Like during the Anthrax scare, there was a man who was named Stephen Hatfill, and he was named a person of interest by the FBI, and he was pretty much defamed by the news and accused of this crime that he didn't commit. So he sued, the news, the New York Times, and he sued the Justice Department, and well, he received a $5.8 million settlement, so in the end it kind of worked out for him really well. And this is similar to what happened during the Crucible because there were many people, obviously, during the Crucible that were wrongly convicted, wrongly accused, and just defamed, and even executed because of something that they didn't commit, and they were accused of a crime just with no evidence. And a difference between the Crucible and the Anthrax scare is that the threat of anthrax within the letters, it was real. Like, you could really die from anthrax. There was really anthrax within the letters, and it could really kill you. And the threat of witchcraft, however, and witches within, the town of Salem, however, it was not really real. It was all made up. It was all paranoia. It was not actually a threat. It was not actually happening. Yeah, and there were anthrax letters that were actually sent throughout the mail and actually, killed people, actually harmed people, but there were no witches. No witches killed people. No witches harmed people. There were no witches that bewitched or, controlled people at all. That was just all paranoia. It was all made up. It was not real. Um, the results of the anthrax scare. So, the final recorded death from the anthrax scare occurred on November 21st in 2001. Short, like, maybe a month or two after the whole thing started. Uh, and the investigation into, who did this, like, why did he do this, the motives, everything like that. The investigation ended officially, pretty much, when the thought to be perpetrator, who was Dr. Bruce Ivins, he committed suicide on July 29th, 2008, and he was basically, like, decided to be the perpetrator, the person who mailed all these letters. And most people think he was the sole perpetrator and he was the only one who mailed all these letters, but there was a study that, strongly supports that but doesn't fully 100% prove that it was Ivins who did it and it was only Ivins who did it. So there could be more people who committed these attacks and were not, are still alive today. There were 5 people killed during the attacks. 17 people were sick, and it frightened many Americans. It was a biological terrorist attack, and immediately after 9/11, there were many people who were shocked, worried, and already frightened over those terrorist attacks. And then, they follow it up with this. a biological terrorist attack, killing 5 more people, and threatening the lives of many more, sickening many more people with the anthrax through the letters. And it really changed the viewpoints of many different Americans throughout America because communism falls, maybe like 10 years earlier or something like that. Everyone's happy, celebratory, the threat of communism is gone. But then now Americans, they have to wake up and they have to realize that there's a new threat, the threat of, terrorism going throughout the country, and that communism is gone, but a new threat is now rising. Thank you. Here are my sources. Thank you for listening.